Hello, my name is Kelly Eddington. I'm a professional watercolor artist with over 150,000 subscribers to my instructional YouTube channel, Kelly Eddington Watercolors. Today I'm going to show you an easy way to practice mixing colors, and I'll show you how I mix colors in a painting of baby leaves. This is featured in my Learn to Paint Watercolor Basics Art Instruction Pad, part of the new learning series from Strathmore. This exercise is a great way to practice mixing colors. Go to a paint store and grab some free sample cards of colors you find interesting. The ones you can't immediately name, such as greenish, grayish, beige, are more challenging than the ones you can, such as orange. Take them home and try to duplicate them. Here I'm mixing a rusty brown, and I'm using a combination of orange, brown, and purple to make it. Watercolor tends to dry a shade or two lighter than when it's wet, so mine is a little darker here. Set your paint sample next to where you'll be working. It's tougher than it looks. Next, I've got a kind of greenish gold. I'm starting with yellow ochre, which is a dull yellow, and I'm adding some green and a bit of blue. Gotta say I'm happy with the way this turned out. Sometimes you get lucky. This blue kind of matches my cerulean, but it's darker and duller. So I'm adding a little bit of green, purple, and even brown to tone it down a bit. It's on the dark side now, but it'll dry a little lighter. I have a sort of salmon color here. I also have a paint color that's called light flesh tint. I paint a lot of portraits, so that's a nice color to have. I added some orange and pink to it and even a speck of brown. And boy, that is some kind of glare, but if you look at what I have on my palette, you can see how it looks. People often tell me I make things look easy, and what you're seeing here is 30 years of paint mixing. It takes a lot of practice. This painting of baby oak leaves will give you some experience with mixing colors. You can mix some of them on your palette and others right on the paper. You can reproduce the leaves' intensity by using your warm colors, yellow, red, and orange. One way to do this is to begin with yellow and drop in the rest. The yellow base creates a warm background you just wouldn't get if you began with orange or red. Try to avoid painting the center veins of the two biggest leaves. You can make shadows using a combination of red and purple or brown. Give this part of the painting a chance to dry. I'm moving on to other parts. The small bud-like shapes near the bottom were made with a watered-down combination of colors I used on the leaves. Paint the little twigs with yellow-green and golden brown, including the parts in the deep shadows. Mixing colors can be frustrating for beginners. Trying to create a color you see can be like making up a recipe for cookies after biting into one. Where do you even start? You have a dozen or so ingredients in your palette, and like cooking, learning how to combine them takes time and patience. I'm glazing some details onto the bud-like shapes, just some deeper browns. This dried pretty quickly, so here are a few darker bits. I like to have at least 3 different values in my paintings: dark, medium, and light. The last major part of the painting is these shadowy leaves. These are complicated colors that you can make using the same colors that you used with the big leaves, along with some purple, blue, and green. That's a lot to deal with. Look closely at the leaves and try to find the underlying colors. Don't be afraid to go relatively dark here. If your shadows are too light, you can always add another glaze later. This is the first of several layers I'll paint here. It can take a while to build up some rich darks. These little leaves are no bigger than your thumb, and they are a fiery red when they begin growing. Within a few days, they become a bright spring green as they develop. Then look for other dark shadows, including the twigs and the leaves near the top and lower right corner. The dark shadows make bright leaves seem even brighter. Now that I've darkened the center twig, the shadowy leaves seem too light. So I'm mixing an intense purplish brown with just enough water to get it to flow, and I'm using that to deepen those leaves' shadows. I'll do the same thing with the shapes on the right side. Finally, I'll add small details and texture to the twigs and leaves. I'm just deepening the colors here and there, and adding a few veins and random specks as I see them. I'm using alizarin crimson and purple for this, along with my dark shadow color I mixed. Paintings inspired by nature are usually easier than paintings of man-made objects or people, for example. If you're a little off on a leaf, nobody's going to know. If you mess up somebody's nose, well, that's another story. I think that's why so many beginners are attracted to painting the natural world. I know I always return to it after I've painted something that's especially difficult. Getting darker and darker on those shadows. Mixing your darks can be tedious, but the resulting colors are much more interesting and livelier than if you just used black. A simple nature walk can be incredibly inspiring during any season, but the colors of early spring can be surprisingly complex and interesting. Make sure you take your camera or sketchbook along with you when you explore your surroundings, and keep your eyes open. I hope you enjoyed my color mixing exercise and painting these leaves. Check out the other video tutorials from my Learn to Paint Watercolor Basics pad to learn even more watercolor painting techniques. And you can go to strathmorelearning.com to discover other Strathmore Learning Series products that I think you'll enjoy. Thanks for watching.